All right, StockPulse.com on location back here at the second annual StockPulse Silver Symposium here in Spokane. We got with me now Jeff Clark from the Gold Advisor.
Advisor.com, yeah.
New deal for you here, Jeff. So I appreciate you taking the trip here. Although you're a gold advisor, boy, you are a silver guy. So,
That's right.
I know being here is a big deal for you, and it is for us. I appreciate you coming. So thanks for coming.
I love being here, Rob. I'm glad you're doing it. I'm glad you're keeping this tradition up. I'm glad you renewed it. We need a silver-focused mining conference, and that's what you're doing, and I'm glad to see it. Sentiment's low, but that's okay. It'll shift. As I showed in my talk yesterday, it'll shift, and this will be a blowout conference someday. That's what I think.
Yeah, so again, silver in the tank, we know that, but a lot of talks around here are, I think the days are numbered here for the naysayers here. So why don't you get into how you see the vibe of the market?
So for silver, basically what I focused on in my talk is I wanted to go back and look for myself to see, okay, what's going on? Why is silver not moving? It's not responding to inflation. It's doing the opposite of what everybody else thought, what all of us thought it would do in the industry. So what's going on? So I went back and looked at a couple things. One was I wanted to make sure I understood silver's DNA. Silver's DNA is very clear. If you look back over the 50 plus years, you'll see that silver has long periods where it's boring, it doesn't do anything, the price is weak, it goes down, it does nothing, absolutely nothing. It's boring, and then all of a sudden there's a boom. There's a giant spike seemingly out of nowhere. It tends to be pretty violent in its reaction. It's also relatively short-lived, but there's a huge spike and it catches a lot of people off guard, and all of a sudden silver is off to the races. It really is boring, boom. When you look at silver in a historical perspective, that's what we've had. Boring. What comes next? Boom. The only thing we don't know is what that timing is. But history is very clear on this message, and that is, this is what silver does, so that's what I expect it'll do again in the future. And that, the average time between all those spikes that I measured in my talk was 2 years and 7 months. The last time silver spiked was 2 years ago. So this tells us that the next boom is coming up fairly soon. Maybe later this year, maybe next year, but another one is coming. And that doesn't even have anything to do with all the fundamentals, the growing industrial demand, the solar demand that's going to go through the roof here over the next couple of years. So there's a lot of fundamental factors that are going to back that as well. And then I also looked at, not to go on here too long, but I also looked at inflation. Okay, why isn't silver responding to inflation? So I went back and looked at the last time we had this giant spike in inflation, the CPI, back in the 1970s. And what's interesting is there was a delayed reaction in silver to the rise in inflation. Inflation started moving up according to the CPI back in 1976, 1977. It started rising, it leveled off, and then it really took off, toward 1980. Silver didn't respond to that. Silver had a delayed reaction. Silver didn't really move all that much until 2 years after inflation started moving. So actually what we have right now, I hate to say it, people don't like it, but it's actually kind of normal. We've had boring, we've had a delayed reaction to inflation, but all the history, all the research, all the fundamentals point to there's going to be another spike in silver. And you have to be prepared for it ahead of time. You can't wait until it takes off, because it takes off so quickly, so violently. You'll pay more, and if you're buying physical silver, you're going to pay more in a premium then as well, because when demand goes up, the premium goes up. So you just have to hold on and wait. But history is very clear on this. I think there's going to be another spike. There's nothing in history that tells me there won't be another spike. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think too many conditions are building here for that. So I guess let's talk about getting prepared here, Jeff. Obviously, you have a service that you offer for people. But yeah, give us some free advice now on how to be prepared for this certain boom that you talk about.
Well, for silver specifically, you have to buy before the spike happens, because like I said, you will pay more, just not in terms of price, but also more in premium. So you're gonna pay a lot more. So, and let's not forget, this isn't just any asset. This has historically been money. And some analysts have pointed out, well, it's moving away from being money. That's a barge in a port trying to negotiate a 10-point turnaround. The silver price is a speedboat in that port. So there's going to be another spike, there's going to be another boom, regardless of what the long-term trend says about whether silver is going to be a monetary metal or not. It still is, and it will be for the next spike. And so therefore you have to be prepared ahead of time. So you have to own it. And premiums are still high right now for physical silver. They really haven't come down all that much, but they're going to go higher still in the next run because demand's going to go up. So you just have to buy. You have to hold on to your money, right? And then for the silver stocks, they're historically undervalued. This isn't saying something that people haven't probably figured out on their own. But they're historically undervalued relative to almost anything else you look at. Mining stocks to silver, mining stocks to gold, to the S&P. You measure against anything, they're historically undervalued. So again, a lot of people are loaded up, they're underwater, they don't want to hear about another buying opportunity, but it does tell us what's ahead. It tells us what the next chapter in that book is going to be. So I'm very long the silver miners, the silver equities, especially the exploration stocks, because I think there will be a turn. When silver turns, then we can expect the silver equities to turn. So I'm preparing that. That's what I'm doing at thegoldadvisor.com, and there's some, what I think are some pretty good picks, on that site.
Yeah, once you break down your business here, and talk about gold. I think the biggest help to silver could be gold running away here. So talk about your new.
So the gold moves, and there's always a delay with silver, right? This is another historical pattern with silver. Gold moves first, silver doesn't move. It just sits there. And almost every cycle, every silver investor out there asks, what's wrong with silver? It should be moving. And yet this is what it's historically done. This is what its DNA is. So, but as I think a lot of people in your audience know, silver catches up to gold and passes it in terms of percentage gain. So there's no reason to expect that's not going to happen again. So that's what I expect. That's what history shows. That's what the fundamentals are talking about. We haven't even talked about all the fundamentals that are going to push silver higher. So one of the speakers here said silver's going to be the new lithium here in the next year or two.
Jen Lin.
Yes, and I can't refute his argument.
Yeah.
I think he's probably right. He's done some really good in-depth research. I think that's what's going to happen. All I can say is I'm preparing for it. That's exactly what I'm doing at thegoldadvisor.com.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the insight there, and people can find Jeff's chat here on the site probably next week or so. Jeff Clark, Gold Advisor. Thanks for the time.
Great. Keep up the good work, Rob.
Appreciate it.